crucial thing here is that EFC and DAFNE are membership organisations. It seems to me self-evident that a membership organisation ought to set out a set of principles and values to which its members sign up. And I look at this not from the point of view of the organisation, but from the point of view of the members. So, famously, Groucho Marx said that he would never think of joining an organisation that would accept him as a member, which is a good joke, but actually it is only a joke. And the truth is, if you're signing up to join a group of, you hope, like-minded people with similar aspirations, surely that's what you would want. You would want a group of people who share the same principles and values as you. And what on earth can be wrong with writing it down?
I believe codes of practice are useful if they have an effect, if they change behavior. And changing behavior is a motivational process. And why do people change behavior? Because there's something in for them. In our association, we have members who existed since 500 years, 600 years or longer. They were very successful without such a code of practice. So why should they accept it? And if that would change them in a way that they don't like, they would step out of our association. So where is the good result of that? That's why in our association the way was a little bit different. We had a kind of a three-step strategy, a motivational strategy. First, the feeling of want, the feeling something is lacking was increased. We repeated and repeated and repeated, if we don't do it voluntarily, then the state will do it. Even the old traditional foundations were kind of motivated to accept this in a way. Then a two-year process was carried through, commission, etc. So after these 2 years, 99% of our members said yes to principles of good practice, very basic principles. And then came the third period, and that was a motivation campaign. And this is still an ongoing thing. We try to motivate and motivate. We invented a new award for good, transparent communication, etc. We repeat it. And we see now, after 5 years, the effect that the majority of our members like it. And we just did a little survey on that. And they say this is a guideline for us. And please help us to put it more into practice, the principles of a good practice.
It's an important distinction here between principles and a code of practice. It seems to me a code of practice ought to embody a set of principles, but the principles are somehow at a more fundamental level. And so and maybe it's a continuum, maybe they're different things, I'm not sure. But having looked again at these EFC principles, I think, yes, they are bland. I think some blandness is inevitable. On the other hand, I would accept that a lot of principles are going to seem fairly broad brush. And I was thinking of some Americans here, so I must be careful, but isn't it the case that the Declaration of Independence says, we, the undersigned, hold the following truths to be self-evident? Didn't stop them feeling it necessary to write them down, recognising, of course, they weren't self-evident to other people, including the Brits, obviously. What's the brief? What's the scope of EFC and DAFNE? Well, actually, of course, it only applies to its members. And yet, this is tricky because I think the sense I get is that EFC and DAFNE aspire to be the voice not just of their members, but of foundations generally. And their writ doesn't run there. So if we had a set of values that we could say it wasn't just 230, but several thousand foundations signed up to, it seems to me that would be a very good starting point.
I would prefer if at European level, indeed, we would have a gold standard additionally. If we can learn from each other, each country from the next one, but if we would have a gold standard and then say a 5-star or whatever, and then a foundation can say we are a five-star foundation, then this would be in addition to what we have at national level.
I don't believe in that idea, or I'm a little bit skeptical to that idea of an overall code of practice for most of the European foundations. Why not? First thing is that I think that our sector is very diverse, and I think that's one of the huge advantage we have. And I think we should really take care that we don't make everything equal. And if you try that, I'm absolutely convinced the code will be useless.
Many of the non-profit associations in Europe actually have codes of conduct and good practice standards that are much more stringent than the standards that foundations apply to themselves. And that's because many of the nonprofits are raising money directly from the public, or they're taking grants from governments. So we tend to lag behind. And I think that we have some accountability to the rest of the third sector to think about our own responsibilities and our own practices. To develop a strong code of conduct for foundations, European foundations, is an opportunity to think about the European identity. Because the reason why we can do this at the national level is because we often have a shared set of practices, a shared cultural values, or a shared set of identity. So in the United States, we value our codes of conduct and our practices quite well. And it took a long time to develop them, but they do develop. So to me, it's an opportunity to think about how to combine countries where we do everything by contract and countries where everything's done by handshake. It's an opportunity to think about what does it really mean to be a European foundation and to strengthen the value of the next level of cohesion in society, which is the European level.